Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Ring of Fire 2.0. Now, this time I will be talking about the first TNA pay-per-view I've talked about either generally in a while on this show, or even you could go as far as saying period on the Ring of Fire 2.0, because I honestly don't think I've really talked about TNA, aside from the obvious. um, a video I did talking about them going back to 6 sides. I don't really. Okay, no, sorry. I did review Destination X this year. But I think that's about it. This is the first one since that. And even then, that was more of a live and free on Spike TV sort of pay per view. So, this is the first proper pay per view of theirs I'll be reviewing this year. And getting straight into it, the pay per view opened with Minoru Tanaka versus Manic. And damn, what a match to open a pay per view that was. Like, holy Christ. I had really no expectations going into this pay per view because, it's essentially an exhibition style pay per view rather than a traditional pay per view. But damn. I don't think I've ever seen Minoru Tanaka wrestle before, but this was no what's the word I'm trying to think of? This was a good first impression. I was trying to think of a different way to word that, I guess, but anyway. Yeah, and a great way to open a pay-per-view. Like, holy shit, this match got almost 10 minutes. Which it kind of felt like it actually went longer than that, I'm going to admit, but the fact that it got almost 10 minutes, and I'm pretty sure if I just look at it, yeah, there was no match that went under 5 minutes. Even the shortest match was almost 6. So there you go. Anyway, Minoru Tanaka won, and you know what? I was almost kind of disappointed, but the fact that Manic actually got to look really damn good in this match, I don't care. TJ Perkins got over. It was showing off a guy from Japan. I'm set. And yeah, and they got almost 10 minutes to work. So, the match made up for the fact that Manic lost, to the point that Manic losing doesn't really mean all that much. It's not exactly like he'd been on a huge winning streak lately. Anyway, I mean, the last win he got was against a fat Shark Boy, so, Speaking of fat, moving on to the next one, we have Ethan Carter versus Ryota Hama, who I'd never heard of before. Again, I found it kind of funny that he came out basically dressed like Rikishi, but I guess since he actually is a former sumo wrestler, it probably makes a hell of a lot more sense. Now, the match itself was pretty meh, but as far as, actual wrestling wise, but as far as I'm concerned, it was entertaining enough that it evened out, and it wasn't necessarily a bad match. And the funny thing is despite it going 5 minutes 50 seconds, apparently, it didn't feel that long. So, maybe it's because it was the only match that went under 6 minutes, but yeah, for some reason, this actually did not feel like it really went all that long. And surprisingly, this seemed to be the only match where a heel actually really did heel stuff. Yeah, I really aside from maybe the main event, there wasn't really much heel tactics. going on throughout the night. So which I guess was sort of, keeping it to the Puro style, where they're basically just flat out wrestling, and it's not really about whether you're heel or face. In certain cases there are, but EC3 wins, no surprise. Basically through an under. No, I'm honestly kind of disappointed that he didn't slam the guy, but even if it had just been after the low blow, that he'd sort of finally able to get the big dude off his feet by slamming him. But well. I guess in a way it kind of it gives his character another reason to be pissed off, I guess, because he can just be, oh god damn it. I wanted to actually slam the fat bundle of shit, but oh well. I still won anyway. But yeah, it wasn't a horrible match at all. It was nothing necessarily all that memorable, but Ryota hitting a sort of rolling senton kind of was kind of interesting, especially a guy his size. I didn't think he'd be that athletic. Thought he would have just squashed him flat, but no. Luckily, he was at least that athletic enough to do a proper roll, so hooray. The next match was MVP versus Kazuma Sakamoto, which apparently went for 8 minutes, but I think that felt like that went a bit longer than that. Oh well. And by the way, when I say Sakamoto, or Sakamoto, whichever way you want to pronounce it, even though Sakamoto is right, I'm talking about the WWE Sakamoto. But, he's... I think he actually shaved that little ponytail thingy off, but I guess he's grown it back since. And it was kind of funny seeing him having to play the heel because the crowd was so behind MVP, which I guess I figured might happen, but I'm not sure if that was just them two working on the fly of that happening or what, because MVP didn't even really play the heel all that much. He just kind of went, oh, well, the crowd likes me. Good, I'll just play the face then. And it worked. So I guess TNA does know, well, okay, if we ever turn him face and it actually catches on, then we're set. At least, they ever turn him face again. MVP wins with a brutal drive-by kick to I'm not sure if it actually was, even the commentators are a bit wondering whether it actually was the knee that he clipped him with a drive-by kick, or if it if he actually was going for a Shining Wizard, or if he did connect with the boot. And if he did connect with the boot, he got him with the boot right to the chest or face, rather than usually he just hits him from the side with that. In this case, he pretty much hit him. It looked like he hit Sakamoto full on in the face. But yeah, generally this was a pretty good match, and it was nice to actually see Sakamoto wrestle for once. I didn't really follow FCW, and I'm pretty sure by the time I really followed, and I'm pretty sure by the time it was NXT, he'd already been released. So, or at least, I'm not sure if he really did anything on NXT after being ditched by Tensai, but I don't know. It was it was generally a really good match. I guess when you think about it, a WWE versus former WWE versus former WWE that you probably never would have seen otherwise. So that's an interesting thing to note. Next match, Samoa Joe versus Loki versus Kaz Hayashi in a 3-way for the X Division title. So the first title match of the night, and my God, this was match of the night. I'm calling it. I don't care what anyone else thinks, whether people thought this pay-per-view sucked or not. I thought this pay-per-view was great, or at least, okay. It was a good pay-per-view. Was it necessarily great? I don't know. That's arguable. But Samoa Joe versus Loki versus Kaz Hayashi was the fucking match of the night by far. Like, holy shit. Those three just beat the fuck out of each other. Oh my god. Even Loki doing the Warriors way out of, like, it's amazing half the time how he seems to hit that out of nowhere. Like, he'll just reverse something somehow and then just smash someone with it. And it's like, I think last time that happened was probably Destination X this year. And I marked out like crazy that time. I didn't mark out as crazy this time, but I think that's purely because at the time I'm doing this and the time I was watching this, everyone's kind of asleep. So, yeah, can't afford to really yell. Joe wins via submission on Loki, surprisingly. I honestly thought Kaz Hayashi would be taking the fall here for some reason. But no. Loki gets the submission loss, though he doesn't tap. The referee basically just checks him and, oddly enough, only checks him once. Usually they drop the arm 3 times. This time, well, I guess it is kind of inconsistent. Sometimes it is done like it was done here, where they only drop the arm once and then just immediately call for the bell. Which, you know what, I'm fine with that. Like, really, this could have gone. I would have been happy no matter what the outcome of this match was, because really, I hope this match lit a fire under Samoa Joe's ass, because this is what he needed, was a match where he had to perform, because this is TNA's biggest pay-per-view of the year, and they're in Japan. And Japan, even though they were pretty much over with everything that happened, like, it seems like the Japanese crowd would be harder to please, and I don't mean because they're quiet, because even the frigging commentators explain why the Japanese crowd is quiet. The irony being, as they were explaining it, the crowd was loud. But anyway, so yeah, Joe retains for that, and yeah, like, I am totally satisfied with that match. I will honestly probably watch that match again someday. I can, like, out of all these, like, if I ever watch this pay-per-view again and it was just for one match, it would be that one. Anyway, moving on. The next match was a Wrestle One showcase match, essentially. So it was like just 4 guys from Wrestle One going at it. And it was Jiro Kuroshio and Yusuke Kodama versus Andy Wu and El Hijo del Pantera. If it sounded like I was reading those slowly, it was basically because I was trying to get the pronunciation correct. At least, the first 2. Which, Yusuke could also be Yusuke, but it really depends from what I can tell. Never heard of any of those guys. Kaz Hayashi, I'd at least, for the 3-way, I'd at least kind of heard of. Never seen him wrestle, but at least heard of him. None of these I've ever heard of. And one of them, I forget which, but it was one of the first 2 I mentioned, actually wrestles with a fucking okay, I think it was Jiro, wrestles with a suit jacket on. Like, it's a sort of camouflage, weird sort of patterny thing, sort of like you'd see Rockstar Spud wear, but not that out there. Apparently, it's because his gimmick's that he's a sort of wannabe rock star or something like that. I can't really remember, but yeah, like otherwise he's wearing pretty traditional attire, sort of flare-looking attire, really, because it's red knee pads, red boots, red tights, speedo tights as I call them. But then he's got that fucking jacket on, and it's just like, what the? And he wrestles in it the whole match, and it's like weird as hell. Pretty damn good match from all of the guys. Jiro and Yusuke win after Yusuke does a corkscrew moonsault. That was pretty damn sweet. Yeah, not really much to say other than if you really want to see what. Honestly, if you want to see what Wrestle 1 is about, period, just watch this pay-per-view. Like, since pretty much there's at least one Wrestle 1 person in pretty much every match aside from the match I'm about to talk about next, and the Knockouts title match after that, pretty much every guy delivers. Of all those Wrestle 1 guys, they all deliver. So, I mean, again, Ryota Hama, but everyone else. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Team 3D versus Abyss and Tommy Dreamer, which what I thought was supposed to be a traditional match turned out to be a hardcore match, apparently, or just sort of turned into one out of nowhere. Weird thing, a sort of odd thing to note, but I'll bring it up anyway. Tommy Dreamer actually came out with a pair of his sort of track pants or whatever that he wears that had Japanese symbols on them. So, like Japanese, probably just flat out his name in Japanese written going down the side of his pants. And I was like, oh, that's a nice touch. Apparently, he was actually done up to look kind of like Terry Funk on purpose, celebrating, God, what was it? I think 50 years or something of Funk having wrestled in Japan. Like, I don't think like literally he'd been wrestling there for 50 years, but 50 years since he started. Or something like that. And the funny thing was, is as this match started, I was thinking, this would make a lot more sense if this was a hardcore match, and it turns out to ends up being one anyway. So I actually like the little bit of continuity they had, where Abyss did not shake Bully's hand at the start of the match, because they have history, and funnily enough, TNA seems to be a lot better at remembering that stuff. They're not perfect. I'm pretty sure there have been at least a few times where they've forgotten that sort of stuff. Granted, I'm pretty sure they usually give a reason for it, but they seem to be better at remembering that sort of shit than WWE does. Where, oh yeah, these guys did feud like years ago, but at the same time, it seems like there would still be some animosity there. So Abyss doesn't shake his hand. Team 3D win, of bloody course. And the one spot that I want to bring up, though, that I remember, aside from, well, there was Abyss going through friggin' into, like, arm first, double flapjacked into thumbtacks. And my God, that must have fucking hurt, because I guess to protect his face, even though he's wearing a fairly thick-looking mask anyway, he basically lands on like his forearms, and it's like, oh God, that's gotta hurt. Even if those weren't going all the way in, that would have fucking stung like a bitch. But yeah, Tommy Dreamer gets power bombed through a Japanese table. And if you've never seen Botchamania or anything else where someone gets slammed onto a Japanese table because they're so, I don't know, well built or something that they just are like structurally sound that they just won't fucking break, or if they do, it's only like really slightly. I was fucking scared that someone was going to get their back broken or broken ribs or something. Just fucked up somehow. But no, Tommy Dreamer gets powerbombed through it because it actually breaks. Thank God. And eventually Team 3D win. Not, it wasn't like exactly then, but Team 3D wins by hitting Dreamer with a 3D. You know, not the best match that these guys could have had, but you know, I had fun watching it. I mean, it's a it's a match with 4 brawlers and they brawled. What more the hell could you expect from that? So, you know, not a great match, but not entirely forgettable. So it's got that going for it. I can actually remember things. And my memory's pretty shit. I can remember fuck all, and I watched this like an hour or two ago. So the fact that I can remember anything is amazing. Which is why it's going to be really fortunate when I can go back to doing these as sort of pre-filmed vlogs that I upload. Anyway, next up we have Havoc versus Velvet Sky for the TNA Knockouts title. And I'm going to go on the record in saying that I would have loved this to have been some sort of mini gauntlet or a 4-way elimination match or even just a triple threat match or a fatal 4-way or whatever, featuring Japanese female wrestlers, so Joshi, as they're called. I would have been totally amped for that. Like, that would have been such a cool idea. Like, you know, maybe, like, I'm guessing it's just that Wrestle 1 probably doesn't have any women signed, and, you know, the only guys they were really using were Wrestle 1 people, so in that case, I guess it would make sense if like, you know, Wrestle 1 just doesn't have women. But, you know, there's plenty of women's. I'm pretty sure there's a few women's promotions there, like Joshi for Hope and stuff. So why not, you know, get in touch with them, see if they're freelance or something, and try to bring them in? That could have worked. Or just, you know, some freelance women from the US that Japan might know through the simple fact of them having wrestled a lot in Japan. Seems like it could have worked, and it would have probably given Havoc a better chance to shine properly. I mean, I don't hate Velvet Sky in any way, but, you know, when you go through the two beautiful people, let's just face it, Angelina Sky. Yes, Angelina Sky and Velvet Love. Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Angelina Love is the more technically sound of the two. Maybe it's just the fact that Velvet doesn't get to show that, and she wasn't horrible in this match. She actually seemed to just be more strike focused than anything else in this, which I guess makes sense because, let's face it, the way they're pushing Havoc, she wouldn't be able to suplex her. Yeah, Havoc retains, and the weird thing is it almost looked to me. Oh, pardon me. It almost looked to me like this finish was just sort of out of nowhere and not planned. Like, it almost seemed like the ref fucked up. Like, you know, not necessarily that Havoc was supposed to lose, but that it looked like initially that wasn't supposed to be the proper finish. Which to me either means that Velvet was hurt and being put in a bear hug didn't really help matters, so she was forced to tap out. Or, I don't know, maybe this was just how they wanted to end it. But yeah, it just seemed really, really odd that instead of using the air raid crash, or, whatever, like, air raid siren, air raid crash, air raid, whatever the move's name actually fucking is. I'm sorry, I forget. Hell, I don't even know Havoc's name for it. Off the top of my head, anyway. But yeah, Havoc retains, but via submission in a. I'm just gonna say it. This wasn't necessarily the best match, which is sad because the knockouts are usually pretty good. So, but yeah, bit of an anticlimactic finish. Otherwise, not really a terrible match. Maybe just a bit forgettable, and again, a bit of a anticlimactic finish. And that leaves us with the main event: the Great Muta and Tajiri against James Storm and the Great Sonata. It's amazing that this only got 10, like almost 11 minutes, because it honestly kind of feels like it went longer than that. But I guess, with the whole pay-per-view, 8 matches, all getting over 5 minutes, that's pretty long time. So, yeah, Tajiri and Muta doing the friggin' the double mist thing like twice, that was pretty sweet. I'm glad there's actually a picture of that somewhere, because you can't really see it properly on camera. But yeah, Muta, what the hell was that thing on his fucking head? Like, looked like it was supposed to be some mutant spider thing, and then he takes that sort of headdressy thing off, and he's got the mask on underneath, and it's like, oh, I guess that explains it. Yeah, this is a pretty good match. I don't remember too much from it, unfortunately, but the finish was pretty sweet. Muta and Tajiri win in a spot where Sonata comes off, like springs off the ropes, or at least goes to, and then gets a double mist in the face. Which, that sounds really dirty for some reason. But yeah, like, he gets the red and the green mist right in the face, and after that takes both a buzzsaw kick and a shining wizard, and that keeps him down long enough to get the pin. And I'm gonna say, it is interesting to think that this was the main event of a pay-per-view. Like, James Storm got to fucking main event a pay-per-view with the Great Muta. What kind of, like, that's a bit of an, if I were him, that would be a bit of an ego boost to me, that I am trusted by this company enough to be in the main event of a pay-per-view where there's no World Heavyweight title match, which I will bring up did bother me. I can tell why, and I pretty much know the reasons why. It's, Lashley would have had MMA commitments, so he couldn't do it. But, which I guess I understand, but again, that doesn't mean I have to like it. It's a fucking pay-per-view. The main title should be defended. And that's the funny thing, is that goes for you as well, WWE. I don't care if fucking Dean Ambrose versus Rollins somehow did end up as the main event of the pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell, by the looks of it, isn't going to have the WWE World Heavyweight title defended. And that is bullshit. Same as this bullshit here. The card, overall, this was a pretty good damn pay-per-view. I do not regret watching this pay-per-view. There are some matches that if I watched this pay-per-view back, I would probably skip, but that's not very many. That's like, I don't know. Honestly, only really 2. I think there's only really 2, maybe even just the one, and that's the Knockouts title match. No offense. It's pretty, yeah, like, that might be the only match I skip. Maybe the EC3 Harmer match as well. So like 2 out of 8. That's still 6 matches. That's still majority of the fucking pay-per-view. So, you know, overall, yeah, this was a pretty damn good pay-per-view. If I had to give it a rating, which I'm pretty sure I did last time or did a pay-per-view review, so I guess I might as well do it again. I guess I'd give it like a, God, I don't know. Let's see. God. I'd give it an 8. I was going to say like 7 or 7.5, but no, I'm giving it an 8. It's not perfect, but it's up there. um, so, yeah, honestly, I think that's about it. I haven't really got much else to say. Apparently, that Team 3D versus Abyss Dreamer might have been Bully Ray's either last match or last match in TNA. If it was, could have gone out with a better match. That's the only reason a real last match period anyway. If it's not his last match period, then okay, that's fine. And it's just his last match in TNA. But yeah. Overall, as I said, not a bad pay-per-view. Was it great? Thinking back on it, not great, not terrible, not bad, not average. It's a good, solid pay-per-view that I did not feel like I wasted my time watching. So there you go. You should probably be the Royal Rumble 2005, finally. I know I said earlier in the week that I was going to be doing that by now, but, was catching up on TNA, finally got around to doing this, so rambling as I usually do. I really got to stop that. Again, yeah, Royal Rumble 2005 review should be my next video. If not, who the fuck knows? But yeah, I'm Thomas Fireheart. I will see you guys next time.